Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning, by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roediger III, and Mark A. McDaniel. Introduction. Imagine you're a pilot, flying a small twin-engine Cessna freight plane through the dead of night. It's just you, the hum of the engines, and 11,000 feet of empty air between you and the dark Texas landscape below. You're on a hotshot run, carrying critical parts to a factory in Kentucky, where an entire manufacturing line has shut down, waiting for your cargo. Then, a flicker on the dashboard catches your eye. The oil pressure in your right engine is dropping. You keep an eye on it, hoping to make it to your next fuel stop, but the needle keeps falling. You know what this means. You've been working on piston engines since you were old enough to hold a wrench, and your gut tells you this is serious. If you wait too long, the engine could seize up entirely. What do? You're alone. The world is asleep. There's no co-pilot to consult, no manual to flip through. In this moment, all you have is what you know. All you have is what you've truly learned. For the pilot, Matt Brown, this wasn't just a hypothetical. He ran a mental checklist, weighing his options. He remembered the tolerances of the Cessna 401. He recalled that with a light load, he might be able to stay aloft on one engine. So he made the call. He shut down the dying right engine, feathered the propeller to reduce drag, increased power to the left, and began to limp his way toward the nearest airstrip. But the most critical decision was yet to come. How to land. He remembered one simple but vital fact: without power on his right side, the only way to maintain enough lift to level out for a touchdown was to approach the runway in a wide, left-hand turn. He did exactly that, and landed the plane safely. Matt's ability to pull that knowledge from his memory, under immense pressure, is the very definition of learning that sticks. It's not about passing a test. It's about having knowledge that's there for you when it truly matters. And that brings us to a profound and somewhat unsettling question: how do we get that kind of knowledge? If you're like most of us, you were taught to study by rereading your textbook, highlighting key passages, and cramming the night before an exam. We believe that if we just expose ourselves to information enough times, it will burn itself into our memory. But what if I told you that decades of scientific research have proven that those methods are among the least effective ways to learn? What if the very things that feel productive, the highlighting, the rereading, the comfortable familiarity of going over your notes, are actually illusions, tricking you into a false sense of mastery? The book we're exploring today, Make It Stick, isn't just another collection of study tips. It's a revelation. Written by a team of two renowned cognitive scientists, Henry Roediger and Mark McDaniel, and a master storyteller, Peter Brown, this book pulls back the curtain on the science of learning. It challenges everything we thought we knew and offers a new path forward, based not on intuition or tradition, but on hard, empirical evidence. By the end of our time together today, you will understand the simple, powerful, and often counterintuitive strategies that separate successful learners from those who struggle. You'll discover why making learning harder can actually make it stronger, and you'll walk away with a toolkit that you can use, starting tonight, to learn anything more effectively and remember it for the rest of your life. This isn't just about getting better grades, it's about becoming a more capable, more confident, and more effective person in every area of your life. Book summary. Let's begin with a simple experiment you can try at home. Without looking it up, try to draw a penny from memory. What does it look like? Which way is Lincoln facing? Where is the date? What words are on it? If you're like most people, you've seen a penny thousands of times. But when you actually try to recall the details, your mind goes fuzzy. In one study, most people couldn't pick the correct penny out of a lineup of a dozen fakes. This simple test reveals the first great myth of learning: the idea that exposure equals understanding. We believe that if we just reread a chapter enough times, or highlight our notes in 4 different colors, we're learning. It feels like we are. The text becomes familiar, the words flow easily. The authors call this the illusion of fluency, We mistake this growing familiarity for true mastery, but it's a trap. As one study found, rereading a text multiple times in a row gives you almost no long-term benefit compared to reading it just once. The time you spend doing it is largely wasted effort. This leads us to the heart of the problem. We are, as a whole, terrible judges of when we're learning effectively. We are drawn to strategies that feel easy and productive, but the gains from these strategies are, as the authors put it, like writing in sand, here today and gone tomorrow. Think of the college student who shows up at his professor's office, distraught over a bad grade on an exam. "I don't understand," he says. "I attended every lecture. I highlighted the textbook. I reread my notes for hours until I knew them inside and out." The professor asks a few simple questions. Did you try to explain the main ideas in your own words? Did you test yourself on the key concepts? Did you try to connect what you were reading to things you already knew? The answer, in almost every case, is no. The student was diligent, but he was diligent at the wrong things. He was a victim of the illusion of mastery. He mistook fluency with the text for mastery of the ideas. So, if our most common study habits are ineffective, what actually works? This is where the book turns from a critique into a guide, and it starts with one central, powerful idea. To learn, you must retrieve. This is the principle of retrieval practice. Simply put, it's the act of recalling facts or concepts from memory. And it is, according to the research, one of the most effective learning strategies ever discovered. Every time you work to pull a memory from your mind, you aren't just checking what you know, you are strengthening that memory and making it easier to find later. The act of retrieval is not a dipstick for measuring knowledge, it's a tool for creating it. Consider a study conducted in a real middle school classroom in Columbia, Illinois. Researchers arranged for an 8th grade science class to be given a series of short, low-stakes quizzes on some of the material they were studying. Other material in the same course was not quizzed, but was reviewed multiple times. A month later, on a final test, what do you think happened? The students scored an A on the material that had been quizzed, and a C+ on the material that had just been reviewed. The simple act of being forced to recall the information made it stick. This testing effect, as psychologists call it, fundamentally changes how we should think about studying. Instead of rereading your notes, you should put them away and quiz yourself. What were the key ideas from that lecture? How would I define that concept in my own words? Flashcards are a simple form of retrieval practice. Trying to explain a topic to a friend is retrieval practice. The goal is to move from passively consuming information to actively pulling it out of your brain. But here's the crucial twist, the part that makes this strategy so powerful and so counterintuitive. The learning benefit is greatest when the retrieval is hard. This brings us to the second pillar of effective learning: embrace desirable difficulties. Our intuition tells us that learning should be fast and easy. If it feels difficult, we must be doing something wrong. The science shows the exact opposite. When learning is harder, it's stronger and lasts longer. The authors highlight several of these desirable difficulties, but two stand out: spaced practice and interleaved practice. First, let's talk about spacing. We all know what it's like to cram for an exam. It's a form of what researchers call massed practice, doing something over and over in a short period. And it can work, for a little while. You might pass the test the next day. But a week later, most of that information has vanished. The gains from cramming are fleeting because they rely on short-term memory. Spaced practice is the opposite. It means studying information more than once, but leaving considerable time between sessions. When you return to a topic after a few days, you've forgotten some of it. Recalling it now requires more cognitive effort. It feels less productive, like you're struggling. But that struggle is what matters. That effort is what tells your brain, this is important. Hang on to this. It forces you to reconstruct the learning from long-term memory, strengthening the connections and making the knowledge more durable. In one stunning study, a group of surgical residents were taught a new microsurgery technique. Half of them learned it in a single, day-long session, massed practice. The other half learned it in 4 shorter sessions, spaced a week apart. A month later, they were all tested. The doctors who had learned through spaced practice outperformed their colleagues in every single area. They were faster, more precise, and more successful at the surgery. The difference was so stark that 16% of the doctors who had learned in a single day were unable to even complete the surgery without damaging the patient, in this case, a live rat. The lesson is clear: learning that's easy is like writing in sand. A little bit of forgetting is actually your friend. The second desirable difficulty is even more counterintuitive. It's called interleaved practice. Imagine you're in a gym class, and the goal is to practice tossing beanbags into a bucket 3 feet away. One group of kids practices by tossing only at the 3-foot bucket, over and over again. Another group mixes it up. They toss at a bucket 2 feet away, and a bucket 4 feet away, but they never practice on the 3-foot bucket. After 12 weeks, who do you think does better on the final test? Tossing into the 3-foot bucket? By a huge margin, it's the kids who never practiced at that distance. This seems impossible, right? But this is the power of interleaving. Interleaving means mixing up the practice of different skills or topics. While massed practice, or blocked practice, feels better because you see rapid improvement on one specific skill, interleaving builds a deeper, more flexible understanding. Let's take a more academic example. In one study, college students were taught how to calculate the volumes of 4 different kinds of geometric solids. One group practiced in blocks. They did all the problems for one shape, then all the problems for the next, and so on. The other group did the same number of problems, but they were all mixed up. During the practice session, the blocked group did much better. They felt like they were really getting it. But on the final test a week later, the results were flipped. The interleaved group scored more than 3 times higher than the blocked group. Why? Because when you practice in blocks, you're just executing the same solution over and over. You know what kind of problem it is before you even start. But when the problems are interleaved, you have to do something much more difficult with each new problem. You first have to figure out what kind of problem it is. This process of discriminating between problem types is a critical skill, and it's one that blocked practice never teaches you. Life doesn't serve up problems in neat, predictable blocks. It's messy and mixed up. Interleaved practice prepares you for that reality. So we have retrieval, spacing, and interleaving. These are the keystones. But the authors give us a few more powerful tools to add to our belt. One is generation. This is the idea that we learn better when we try to solve a problem before being taught the solution. Think about it. When you're trying to assemble a piece of furniture, do you learn more by reading the manual from start to finish first, or by diving in, trying to fit the pieces together, getting stuck, and then looking at the manual for the specific step you need? The struggle to find the answer yourself makes your brain more receptive to the solution when you finally find it. It creates a mental hook to hang the new knowledge on. Another is elaboration. This is the process of giving new material meaning by connecting it with what you already know. When you're learning about heat transfer, for example, don't just memorize the definitions. Relate them to your own experience. Conduction is the feeling of warming your hands on a hot mug of cocoa. Radiation is the way the sunlight feels on your skin on a winter day. Convection is the blast of air conditioning that saves you on a sweltering afternoon. The more you can explain new learning in your own words and connect it to your existing knowledge, the stronger your grasp of it will be, and the more cues you'll create to help you remember it later. These strategies, retrieval, spacing, interleaving, generation, and elaboration, are not just theories. They are evidence-based tools that work. But there's a final, crucial piece of the puzzle that makes all of them possible. It's a belief. The book makes a powerful case against a very common and very damaging idea: the myth of learning styles. You've probably heard it before. I'm a visual learner, I'm an auditory learner. The theory holds that we learn best when information is presented to us in our preferred style. The authors, after reviewing the scientific literature, deliver a clear verdict. There is no credible evidence to support the idea that matching instruction to a person's preferred learning style improves learning. In fact, believing you're locked into one style can be incredibly limiting. It gives you an excuse to disengage from learning that isn't delivered exactly how you like it. What matters far more than your preferred style is that you go wide, that you draw on all of your aptitudes. Good learning is multimodal. It involves seeing, hearing, doing, and connecting. Instead of focusing on a supposed learning style, the authors point to a much more powerful difference between learners: their mindset. Drawing on the work of psychologist Carol Dweck, they explain that people tend to have one of two beliefs about their intelligence. Some have a fixed mindset. They believe their intellectual ability is hardwired from birth. Others have a growth mindset. They believe their abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. This single difference in belief has profound consequences. If you have a fixed mindset, every challenge becomes a test of your innate ability. Failure is an indictment. It means you aren't smart enough. So, you avoid challenges you might not succeed at. But if you have a growth mindset, you see challenges differently. You understand that effortful learning literally changes your brain, building new connections and making you smarter. You see failure not as a verdict, but as useful information, a sign that you need to dig deeper or try a different strategy. Making mistakes is not a sign of weakness, it's a critical part of the process of building expertise. Embracing a growth mindset is the fuel that powers all the other strategies. It's what gives you the courage to embrace desirable difficulties, the resilience to persist when retrieval feels hard, and the wisdom to see that the struggle to learn is not a barrier. It is the way forward. In the end, Make It Stick delivers a message that is both liberating and empowering. Learning is not something that happens to you. It is something you do. It is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned and improved. You are not stuck with the brain you were born with. The power to increase your abilities lies, to a surprising extent, within your own control. By taking charge of your own learning, by replacing comfortable but ineffective habits with strategies that are effortful but durable, you can truly make knowledge stick, ready for you whenever you need it, whether you're taking an exam or flying a crippled plane through the dark of night. Commentary. As we reflect on the powerful ideas in Make It Stick, what stands out most is how deeply this book challenges our culture's obsession with speed and ease. We live in a world that celebrates the quick fix, the life hack, the shortcut. We want to learn a language in 10 days, master a skill in an afternoon, and see results instantly. This book offers a quiet, firm, and scientifically backed rebuttal to that entire way of thinking. The most profound lesson, for me, is the concept of desirable difficulties. It's a beautiful paradox. The moments we feel most frustrated, the times when we're struggling to recall a piece of information, or trying to solve a problem that feels just beyond our reach, these aren't moments of failure. They are the very moments that learning is being forged. The struggle is not an impediment to learning, it is the heart of learning. This shifts our entire perspective on effort. Effort is not a sign of weakness or a lack of talent. It is the engine of growth. When you embrace this, it changes everything. A difficult study session is no longer a source of frustration, but a sign that you're doing something right. A mistake on a practice test is not a failure, but a valuable piece of data, illuminating exactly where you need to focus next. The authors have given us more than just a set of techniques, they've given us a new philosophy of learning, grounded in a growth mindset. It's a philosophy that replaces the anxiety of performance with the joy of progress. It reminds us that mastery is not a gift bestowed upon a talented few, but a journey available to anyone with the discipline and the courage to take the harder, more effortful path. So how can you start putting these powerful ideas into practice today? Let's not get overwhelmed. Here are 3 simple, practical actions you can take to begin your journey. First, Practice the 5-minute recap. The next time you finish reading a chapter for school, or leave a class, or watch an educational video, don't just move on. Take 5 minutes. Put away your books and notes, and on a blank piece of paper, write down everything you can remember. What were the key ideas? What were the most surprising points? Force your brain to retrieve the information without any cues. It will feel hard, but this simple act of retrieval is one of the most powerful things you can do to make that learning last. Second, mix it up. When you sit down to study, resist the urge to do one thing for a long time. If you're studying for a math test, don't just do 20 problems from Chapter 5. Do 3 problems from Chapter 5, then 2 from Chapter 4, then 1 from Chapter 2, and then circle back. If you're learning vocabulary words, shuffle the deck constantly. This is interleaving, and while it feels less organized, it will build a more flexible and robust understanding that will serve you far better on test day and beyond. Third, become the teacher. Find someone, a friend, a family member, or even just your dog, and try to explain a key concept you're learning, in your own words, without looking at your notes. The act of formulating the idea, structuring it, and speaking it aloud will instantly reveal the gaps in your understanding. It forces you to engage in both retrieval and elaboration, 2 of the most potent strategies we've discussed. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That was a summary of Make It Stick by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roediger III, and Mark A. McDaniel. We've touched on the most important principles today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the landmarks and the main roads, but it can never replace the experience of actually walking the trails, breathing the air, and discovering the hidden gems for yourself. The real magic happens when you read the book. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has lit a spark in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new study habits, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see your own potential. Also, if you found this summary valuable, I would be so grateful if you would hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that this work is helpful, and it ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.